Everyone, welcome back to Caprine Cottage. It's a bit windy here today, like a lot windy, so if you hear any background noise, I will edit out what I can, but it's crazy out there. So we'll hope that it doesn't cause too much distraction. But this week, I just wanted an easy, casual video to make, and so I thought it would be really fun to do a reintroduction / Q&A kind of video, because I mentioned in my last video it is my around my 2-year anniversary on YouTube, and there's a lot more of you here since the last time I did something like this, and I just thought it would be fun. It's easy for me to edit, and yeah, it's just gonna be nice, casual. I have some questions you guys submitted on my phone here. I can read them. But I also just thought I would do a little introduction in case anyone is new here, or yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't necessarily talk about myself that much, but I do. I don't know. Social media is so weird because I feel like I'm often showing my life or talking about my craft, but maybe not so much talking about who I am as a person. I try to kind of incorporate that, but it doesn't like come naturally to me, I feel like. So I guess we'll start off with, my name is Anne. I think most of you know that, but I also realized that because my handle is not my name, that maybe not everybody knows that. I spell my name with an E, like Anne of Green Gables, which coincidentally is not my favorite piece of literature. I don't dislike it, and I love the idea of visiting that part of the world. I kind of mentioned that last week. I'm very interested in going to Canada, which it's such a weird reality in my life, I guess. I've been to Europe, I think, 4 times, but I've never been to Canada. And I live in New York State, in central New York, so the Canadian borders are like not that far from where I live. It's it's a long drive, but it's drivable. I would say it's closer than many places I have gone like on a driving vacation to in the United States, so it's just a funny thing. But yeah, see, this is gonna be rambly. I will just tell you that ahead of time. And I think I'll just share some sort of random facts about myself, I guess. One of them, which just came to mind, is that I worked for Urban Outfitters in like a management position doing some fashion merchandising as like the first career in my life. And what made me think of that is our store where I worked was in the same district as the stores in Toronto. So that's, yeah, I was just using that as an example of how kind of like connected and close we are to the Canadian border where I live. So yeah, that's like a random tidbit of information. I worked there for around 5 years, and then I stepped down from my position there, and I then worked kind of like freelance doing, like, I was, I guess, technically self-employed, but doing kind of just like data entry. I don't want to say, it was kind of boring. I mean, it wasn't boring because it was just something to do, and I could work from home and just do like simple part-time tasks. And then eventually I was hired by the company I was freelancing for and got involved in property management. So that was like my second career, which is a funny thing to say, but I worked in property management for I think it was like 2 years. But I worked for in like low income housing, tax credit housing. So there's a lot of certifications and paperwork and things like that. And it was really rewarding, but also I worked for a not-for-profit, and just the environment was incredibly stressful. And I was physically pretty unwell. And by the time I left, I was very unhappy with that job. And the reason I left was because Caleb and I were able to purchase the farm. And I did actually end up spending, I think it was an entire year where I like didn't work or do anything in between the time that I left that job and the time that we moved into the farm. Because I think I left my job Yeah, it was like in March, and then we didn't close on the house until the following March. But the truth is, I was suffering, in my opinion, pretty severely from burnout. And like, I'm so grateful and lucky that I was able to take that time. But at that like part of my life is kind of a blur. But then yeah, we moved to the farm. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some little facts about myself. I was like an excellent student in high school, but by the time I graduated, I actually moved schools for my senior year of high school. And when I moved, I had enough credits to graduate as a junior, but there were required classes that I had to take. So I had to stay in school for one more year. But it was kind of fun because I came to a new school, and because I didn't really need to take, like there was only like 3 classes I like was required to take. I got to take a bunch of really fun classes at my new school that my old school didn't offer. So I took physics, which I didn't need to take, which of course I really enjoyed that. I took a year of Latin, which was amazing, and I sort of wish I'd stuck with that more. I took a drawing and painting class. What else did I take? That might have been it. But I took like a whole bunch of like extra fun electives, and my new school offered a lot more things than my old school did. So that was really fun. But then by the end of that year, I had been obviously looking at colleges, and I ended up not applying to any colleges except for our local community college. And I did like 1.5 semesters there, as I guess technically my declared major was just like general studies, but because they didn't offer an art program, but I was taking mostly art classes. I was taking like, I think I took design, I took drawing and painting, I took illustration, and then of course I had to take like general ed regs too. But halfway through my second semester, I just kind of couldn't take it anymore. I was definitely going through it emotionally, but then also I was a little bit bored. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm oversharing with this, but I just wanted to explain my background a little bit. Because I do have a background in fine arts, and so I dropped out of school, and then yeah, I pretty much just started working in retail from there, and then the rest is history. Let's see what else. Like I said, I took Spanish in high school too, but then I took 1 year of Latin, and then lately in the last, I guess it's been like 2.5 years now, and I'm just doing Duolingo, which I know like everybody has their qualms with, so like I get it, I know. But I've been doing their Scottish Gaelic program, and I promised myself if I did the whole Duolingo course, that I could then sign up for a real course. And I recently just achieved that goal. Like I finished the Duolingo program for Scots Gaelic, and so now I am looking into maybe taking an online course. I'm a little nervous about taking an online course because I feel like it's easy in the beginning to commit to an online class, and then like halfway through you don't do the work. I've always really struggled with online learning, but also I know that there's no program near me that would offer that. Like I know there's programs in Nova Scotia, but obviously I'm not going to go and live in Nova Scotia for 6 months. I mean, I wish, I dream, but that's not going to happen. But then, yeah, so that's one thing. Something else I've been thinking about a lot lately. I feel like I'm talking about my history with art because it's something that's been on my mind a lot, and I've been really craving or like feeling called to painting again, which I feel like studying painting and art kind of like burned that out of me, and I feel like I reached a point where I was unable to enjoy the practice of painting or drawing because like I was obviously receiving critiques in my classes, but also then I was in it, like I would always be picking apart what I was doing, and so it was really hard for me to channel my creative like spirit, because I would be like, oh, like this is too cliche, this is like not how, like I would have all these thoughts as I was trying to make. And so I really stepped away from it for, I mean, a really long time. Like we're talking over 10 years, 15 years since I've really done anything like that. And one thing I have never done is oil painting. And so that's something I'm thinking about too, is I know there's a local arts program that does offer oil painting classes. And so that's something I'm thinking about doing. I don't really know what else to share. That's kind of my like career education history. So yeah, I do not have like a professional higher education, well, degree in anything, but especially not fibercraft or anything like that. Everything I've done is pretty much self-taught. I did learn how to knit from my mom, who learned from her mother, and I learned to sew from my mom, and a friend, like one of my mom's good friends, taught me to crochet. So that's sort of where that comes from. I felt like ready to make this video and like, I'm going to talk about myself. And now, of course, I feel like I've A, overshared, and B, incredibly uncomfortable. So be nice to me. I'm trying to think of any other like little tidbits about myself that people might not know. Oh yeah, that's another thing that I did. Again, I don't have like a certificate or a degree, but I have, it's like something I'm interested in, is I have studied herbalism for a long time. I briefly worked as an apprentice for a local herbalist, which was one of the greatest experiences of my life. But no, I don't have a business or anything. I just do that casually. That's another little thing. And I love plants. Obviously, you guys know I love being in nature, but I love seeing new plants and learning about new plants. And every time I see a plant when I'm walking that is unfamiliar to me, I have to take a picture of it and try to look it up and figure out what it is. And I'm always like hoping that it's going to be something really exciting, and then it's often not. It's just, oftentimes it's a plant I already know, but in a different life stage. So that's, I think, a really like fun and beautiful thing about spending so much time on the same land, is you really get to know like your plant and animal neighbors through every season of their being. And that's something I've talked about before, but since having Feeny, obviously we go on a lot of walks, and it's a really interesting experience to be walking with a herbivore animal. So like normally you're walking with a dog, right? That's at least my life experience mostly, is if you're walking with an animal, it's a dog or maybe a horse, but it's different with horses. But, you know, a dog is interested in the deer or the rabbit or smelling things. And goats are interested in smelling things too, but in a very different way. And so it's been such a joy to spend so much time closely with her and watching her seek out plants. She definitely has favorite plants. It's made me appreciate certain plants in different ways. Like, I feel like I often think of the multiflora rose and or the honeysuckle as such an invasive nuisance in our area. But then to see her joy at both of those plants, because they're two of her favorite things to eat, it's sort of like reframed my perspective on them. And I just feel like I notice it in a different way than with our other goats, because they kind of, you know, they're in their area and they can just kind of go about. And if you hang out with them, you can observe what they're doing. But it's so different to be moving and walking with an animal and like seeing what they're interested in and what they remember. Like that's something that's been so fascinating with her, is she remembers certain places on our walk where there might be a plant that she likes to eat. Like there's this one section where there's grapes, like a lot of wild grapevines. And in the fall last year, I was picking leaves off the ones she couldn't reach and giving them to her. And so now even, it's not obviously time for those plants. They're not even awake yet. But every time we get near that, she like trots ahead to go look and see. And in a similar spot there in the fall, especially, the sumacs were dropping their leaves. And so she looks on the ground to see if there's any sumac leaves. And so it's really changed my relationship with the plants around me. And it's been a really like fun and unique experience. I feel like I'm doing, do you know when you're in a new like class or I don't know, social environment where nobody knows each other and they make you do those icebreaker games? I feel like I'm just sharing all of the random things I would share in one of those games, which is sort of fun. Because I feel like you know a lot about, I'm trying to share things that maybe you don't know about. Like you guys know I love to read. I talk about books all the time. You know I love to cook. I share cooking stuff all the time. So these are some things that I don't share as much. But yeah. Okay, let's get into some questions before I share something else cringy and weird. So I have questions both from Instagram and from YouTube and from Patreon. So I'm gonna try and sort them by maybe by topic. There's not very many. I guess let's just start with this first one that's from Whisk and Pearl, who is one of my favorite people on the internet. She is on Instagram. I can put her handle right here. But she used to have a podcast. I don't know if she's still doing that. Maybe she will comment and let us know. But she just says, "How are you today? And thank you for making the content you share with us," which, no, thank you. But how am I today? So I'm okay. I'm not necessarily good or bad. Yesterday, I should have filmed this video yesterday. I don't know what was going on. I was so exhausted yesterday that I genuinely couldn't stay awake. I don't know, another reason why I'm like forcing myself to film this and a little bit more content today is in case I get sick, because that's the only thing I can think of is maybe I was a little sick or I'm getting a little sick. So far I feel fine, but I was so tired. I ended up sleeping late. Like Caleb took care of all the animals while I slept. I got up for a little bit, had some breakfast, hung out with Feeny, and then it was like lunchtime and I was so tired that I was like, I have to go like sit in bed or lay down. And I went and I worked on a project in bed, and then I laid down and read for a little while. And then Caleb came home and we did go for a walk. But then after the walk, I went upstairs and laid down again and slept for like another 3 hours. And it's not like me to just want to sleep during the day. So that was yesterday though. I was feeling really tired. I feel less tired today, but I was kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say unmotivated, but a little unmotivated to get my work done today. But I'm here, I'm doing it, so that's good. Sometimes filming feels like this insurmountable thing. And this is something I'm really working on, is I feel like I'm always rushing, right? Like I'm rushing to get ready to film. I'm rushing while I'm filming. I'm not taking my time. So I'm trying really hard to just settle in, take my time filming. Like if the footage I take is super long, I can just edit out what I don't want. I can repeat myself. Like I'm trying to just like put a little less pressure about that on myself, because I feel like the rushing makes me like, it makes it not fun. So I'm trying to be more casual about it. But yeah, so that's kind of how I am today. I feel a little sleepy maybe. Like I said, I think maybe I didn't mention this, but I've just been on this reading kick lately where all I want to do is sit and read, which is arguably good, but I'm not getting anything else done. So I'm trying really hard to be like, you can read if you finish your work. I'm like a child. You can have a snack if you finish your homework. So doing my homework. So okay, another question. So from Instagram, from Casting Glamours, what are your summer knitting plans? So my summer knitting plans are a little open-ended, but also kind of not. One of them is my knit along, which may be getting pushed back. I was hoping the start date would be May 1st, but I'm waiting on some things and it might end up being later. So I'll make sure everybody knows about it when the time comes. But so that is one summer knitting plan, but I'm not going to talk about it now. And then the other one, I have the yarn here. I've showed this before, but I'm really excited to cast this on. I'm forcing myself to finish my Dravo pullover before I start this. But it is the Outline Tee by M.A.B.L.E, and I'm making it in this gorgeous, gorgeous, incredibly beautiful yarn from M.A.B.L.E Company. Let's see, there you go. And it's a natural color. This stole my heart at Indie Untangled, so it's here waiting patiently for me to finish. I am making some really good progress on my Dravo. I worked on it last night. I think I mentioned before, the whole thing is almost all ribbed, like one by one rib, so it's just a little slow going, but I'm so in love with it. I can't wait. I'm going to show it to you guys in 2 weeks. And hopefully I'll have more done, and I'm really excited to show it to you. So that's pretty much all my summer knitting plans. I am not really a summer knitter. I don't really do warm weather projects. I like the idea of becoming more of a summer knitter, and I do have I like am considering making some kind of tank. I don't really like wearing tank tops, so maybe not. I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. The knit along project is a like vest slash tee kind of shape. So it's like a summer thing. And then of course I'll probably keep making socks in the summer because I love making socks and they're easy to take around. This one, there's a few here from this person. This is from YouTube, from Klassen. And I'll just answer a couple here. One is, do you have a local fiber shed? The answer is probably. I don't know about it necessarily, and I'm not like a member or anything, but I'm sure there's something. And there are actually quite a few local fiber farms very close to me. So that's a like maybe. It's like I should research more about that. The next one, also from the same person, says, is there something in particular you wish folks knew about you or your hobbies that you don't often get a chance to share? I feel like I kind of did that in the beginning. I'm trying to think if there's anything, yeah, about like my fiber craft that I have. I feel like I'm pretty, that I share about a lot. I feel like it's more the other stuff that I don't share about as much. And so I feel like I did a lot of that at the beginning. This is from Kim on Patreon. Kim asks, I'd love to know how you got into fiber arts and maybe see all of your fiber toys. So how I got into fiber arts, like I said, I grew up doing it. I probably told these things like multiple times in different ways, but I would say what kind of brought me back to it was that I have always wanted to learn to spin like more than anything. I know I mentioned this before, but I love kind of like getting to the root of something. Like I like to know how something starts from the very beginning part of the process. I loved knitting, but I also wanted to learn about how to make yarn, and then I wanted to learn like about where the yarn comes from and things like that. So I've wanted to spin for a really, really long time. And then when I met Caleb, his sister has sheep. I got some wool and it inspired me to learn how to spin. And so I purchased my first spinning wheel in 2020. And yeah, it's kind of that I feel like is where it really took off for me. I had been obviously knitting pretty much forever up until that point, or crochet. I don't really do crochet anymore. I think it's really hard on my joints. I had pretty casually knitted for, like, I can't think of a time in my life that I didn't do a knitting project. They were all, you know, of varying degrees of like nicely done niceness. But then I learned to spin. I think it must have been in 2020, and bought my spinning wheel, and yeah, it's sort of just been my main focus ever since then. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like I used to focus more on fine arts, which is, I'm not going to go there, but like I hate the delineation between craft and fine art. And I feel like a lot of other people who are craftspeople feel similarly. And there's a whole lot of politics and history behind that, but I won't go there today. Something I guess I could share about that I guess I haven't really talked about on here, which this is a good segue because it's something I'm thinking about. So one thing that I love, and I think maybe it's apparent, but maybe not, is that I've always been obsessed with, I guess I'll say fashion, but not necessarily, you know, like runway fashion, but in my teen years, I was really obsessed with the fashion world and fashion design and alternative fashion and things like that. And as I've aged, it's kind of transformed into the concept of dressing the body and the architecture sort of connected to the idea of what is, you know, like when you are a fine artist, I mean, you could be a sculptor too, but arguably your art's purpose is to hang on a wall or be in a room and be viewed. But as someone who focuses on craft, the idea of function then comes into play. So, you know, if you're a ceramicist, you are trying to create a vessel that performs a duty. And, you know, if you're a woodworker, that sort of thing. And then I think when you get into wearable craft or wearable art, as I would see it, you not only have the concept of functionality, but you also have the body to work with, and the idea of fit and you know, that's sort of like, I feel like fit as a concept is sort of, it's subjective, right? Like, just because I like the fit of something doesn't mean you do. And the idea of fit being right or wrong, like, is that well fitting or not, is sort of made up, right? So I think a lot of fashion standards and fit are connected to beauty standards, right? And what is seen as desirable. So we see a lot of fit being connected to flattering. So these are all sort of like big things to think about. And I think that that's why I am mostly drawn towards craft that is wearable, because I think that there is a lot of politics tied up in it. I think that there is a lot of nuance. I think that there is room for pushing boundaries in the way that what we wear, how it affects how others perceive us. So yeah, I would say that maybe that's like a big thing in my life that I don't talk about, is my love of fashion and dressing and styling. Yeah, the way that based upon how you present yourself to the world, you will be perceived differently. It's always been sort of my joy to subvert people's expectations of what I will be like based upon how I present myself. Yeah. So that's like a big, long-winded way to say I love fashion and all of the facets that are connected with that. Oh, that's what I was gonna say about this. This was the whole point of talking about clothes and fashion. I think I want to do, I don't want to like totally commit to this because I feel like I'm gonna fail, but I want to do a segment on Instagram and on shorts on here, or I was like sort of toying with making a second Instagram, but that seems insane. Like I can't even keep up with the one I have. But I was pretty proud of myself because I was like, it will be called Caprine Closet. And then it'll just be like what I wear in a day styling videos, because I love those. Like I love seeing other people's outfits. It like brings me so much joy. One of my favorite accounts, she's a fiber artist. I think her handle is Lynn the Gray, but then she now has a second account that's called, I think it's called Lynn Wears Things. And it's just so much fun to see people wearing their handmade items and styling them. And so I kind of like want to get on that train a little bit. But also I'm nervous, of course. So yeah, that was sort of the combination, the talk about fashion and styling and all that. Like I said, I worked in fashion retail, I worked in fashion merchandising, so it's all connected. So Christine on YouTube asks, or she says, I'm going to 2 weddings in the fall, and my question is, how is your wedding planning going along? Have you set a date yet? And that's a resounding no. And I've done no planning. It's so funny because I feel like Caleb and I have waited so long. Like I said, we just celebrated our 10th anniversary. That in a funny way, it's like, well, what's another year? It's not that obviously we want to get married, but it also feels like really overwhelming. And I'm sure many of you who have planned a wedding understand that. And we're really trying to decide kind of what makes sense for us, because both of us are kind of shy people, and so we don't know if we want like a big ceremony anyway. So we kind of are thinking about like maybe courthouse wedding and then a party afterwards, but we haven't decided anything. And it's like another year, you know, it's already spring, so if we were going to get married in the fall, like we would have had to be on that already. So yeah, the answer is no. I haven't planned anything, but I'll make sure to share with you guys when and if that happens. I mean, it will happen, but like, who knows when. I think the rest of them are mostly farming related. So 2 questions are like, how did you get into farming? And I know I've talked about this in other Q&As, so I'll just be brief, which is that we sort of fell into it. Caleb's parents are vegetable farmers, and he comes from like multi-generations of dairy farming before that on his mom's side. We had never really intended to do this, but our farm came up for sale, and I think I mentioned before, the land is connected to his parents' land, so it was honestly too good to pass up. I have always been interested in like homesteading, I guess. Homesteading has different connotations than it once did, but you know, I've been interested in like living off the land. The back to the land movement of the 70s was hugely inspirational to me growing up and still now. So yeah, it just seemed like something that we would like to try doing. So we kind of have like a joint farming sort of thing. But that's like the short answer. I would say I've definitely gone into it more deeply in other videos, so I won't go too much into it. Question I love so much, and it's not really farming related, but it says, if there is anywhere else in the world that you would like to try living in. So resounding yes. I feel like there's so many places. If there's one thing I regret in my life, which there's not many, it's that I didn't travel or like do study abroad or something like that before kind of settling down. That's not to say I don't love my life. Of course I do. But we are, you know, we're like pretty much in our like forever home, you know, God willing. Like we intend to stay here. But sometimes I do dream of living somewhere else. Of course, my like number one choice would probably be the UK, especially after going to Scotland. I would love to live in Scotland. I would even consider Shetland. But of course, you know, we don't want to give up what we have here. And the truth is that like to have what we have here in Europe would be like, we could never afford that. So that's like one piece. But also like, I love the idea. I wish sometimes that I could just go on like an extended vacation somewhere, like 2 or 3 months just to stay somewhere. And maybe someday that will be possible, but right now it's not. But yeah, I would say like my top choices for other places to live would be like the whole of the UK, but specifically Scotland. But then also I feel like sometimes it has to be on the right day. But I like fantasize about southern France, southern Italy. I loved it there. It's so like different from here. I kind of love the idea of living somewhere that doesn't have a super cold winter. I don't know what that looks like or like where that looks like. You know, I have family in Southern California. Sometimes in the winter, I see pictures from them and I'm like, it looks really nice there. But I think that really what it comes down to is just traveling more. I feel like if I were to travel more, I wouldn't have as much of that like want. As for places in the United States, I kind of can't see myself really, you know, like I said, Southern California sounds nice, but I kind of can't see myself leaving the East Coast or like even the Northeast. The United States is really interesting in that way where I feel like there's very like specific cultural differences throughout our country. And, you know, I've lived in New York State my whole life. I could see myself definitely considering Massachusetts. I could see myself considering Maine, Vermont, like more of the Northeast and like New England. Definitely. I feel like the culture is really similar. My like extended family is from Boston, so I've spent a lot of time in Boston and Massachusetts, and I feel like, you know, that's a place that I could happily live, though it's cold, you know? So I love Maine. I've said that before. I love Maine so much, but again, it's so cold. So sometimes I feel like New York is a really happy medium in that way where it's not super duper long. I mean, we have really long winters, but it's not that bad here. And then of course there's so many places in the world I just would love to visit. Like just there's so many. I can't even begin to name them because there's so many. So I think the rest of them are mostly animal related. So one person asks, do you have plans for more goaties? And then someone else asks, are your goats or other animals having babies for spring? And so the answer is no to all of those things. And it's kind of a sad reason. And so because of Alfalfa's illness last year and, you know, what essentially caused him to pass away is the reason we can't have more animals. So the disease he had is caused by a bacteria. It's highly, highly contagious, and it's pretty much a death sentence to any ruminants that get it. It would be irresponsible for us to add animals to our farm, like ruminant animals. Like we could get chickens again or something like that because they can't catch it. But, or, you know, cats, dogs, that stuff is okay. Until all of our animals that we currently have pass on, and then 18 months after that would be the time that we could consider getting new animals. And so it's a little bittersweet for us. We're, you know, it's sad. It's really sad because we really can't expand our herd And, but at the same time, I think it's made us really value the animals that we have now. And, you know, we're very committed to providing them with the best life they can have, whatever, you know, whatever lifespan that might look like. And there's just a lot of unknowns. We don't really know how long any of them will live. We don't know if they were affected, or, you know, like, we don't really know if they have it or not. Chances are probably yes, at least for some of them, but there's no way to tell until they are like pretty unwell. The tests will be negative because it's hard to detect. So they can be asymptomatic and undetectable levels of the bacteria in their blood. So we just don't know. But yeah, we're just trying to make the best of a bad situation and love them and give them the best lives that they can have until that time is passed. So yeah, sadly, no new animals here, especially no new baby animals. Baby animals are the most susceptible to catching it. So yeah, that was like maybe not the best answer. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to look through all of them one more time and see if there's anything else. It's not, I said I was going to break them up by like craft and then farm, but I've just gone and mixed them all up. And so one final thing is, what's your favorite thing you've ever knitted? And it's really hard. I think if I'm going to force myself to pick one, because I feel like I could like sort of argue for all of them, but I think it has to be my lower low pullover. It's upstairs, otherwise I'd go get it. I could put a picture of myself wearing it here, but that is the most versatile garment. It goes with everything. It's perfectly lightweight because it's fingering weight Shetland wool, but it's so warm and cozy. It's the perfect boxy fit for me. It fits perfect. Again, fit, like, objectively, does it fit me? I don't know. I love the fit of it. I really love Shetland wool in that it doesn't, it's rustic, but it's not like too fluffy. Sometimes I feel like, you know, I love Clotalope, I love Icelandic wool, but sometimes it's like too fluffy. It's just like impractical. Or too like, it's just too much sometimes. Yeah, I think that's my favorite garment. I also love my two Mary Jane Mucklestone patterns. I really, like, there's something about her style that I really like, but I also love my downstairs socks. Those, I think, are one of the most objectively beautiful things I've ever made. They're really fun to make. I have plans for a second pair of them, and now I'm really wanting to make them now that I talk about it. I'm waiting for the day that I make something that trumps lower low as my favorite garment. I would say I probably wear that the most. Well, maybe not. I wear my halibut sweater a lot too. The lower low is just so convenient. Like, I can throw it over a dress. I can wear it with pants. I can wear it looks cute. It just looks good with everything. I always talk about making a second one. I would love to make one in natural black with like a different contrasting color band. Maybe this winter. That'd be a cozy winter project. It's just so hard that there's, I'm sure you all relate to this, where there's so many patterns like out there that it seems kind of insane to make the same thing twice. Because you're like, well, I want to try a different pattern. But then also when you have a garment that's just so great, yeah, you just want another one. I think I might just end things here. I feel like this video was a little chaotic, a little all over the place, but I also feel like a pretty accurate representation of who I am as a person, which is what I was trying to convey, I guess. If you have any other questions, like, feel free to put them down below. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, I'm so happy that you clicked on this video and chose to come check it out here. This is maybe not my normal content. I would say normally my content is mostly fibercraft, fiber arts centered. There's a monthly knitting podcast that's like a consistent. There's also my Caprine craft series where I show you how I make different things. There is, yeah, I do my vlogs, randomly vlogs. They started out as farm vlogs, but now they're just kind of cozy everyday vlogs. So yeah, there's lots of things here. I also have a newly launched Patreon where you can get ad-free versions of these videos. You can get a monthly written blog with photos. You can get additional videos. I'm trying to plan what April's additional video will be. Yeah. So, and then if you've come here before, you're a returning viewer, thank you guys so much. Some of you have been with me for 2 whole years since the very beginning, which is so like insane to me. It feels so crazy that, yeah, I think I've said it before. I remember the first time I ever heard of YouTube or saw a YouTube video, and that was in the year 2006. So I'm dating myself here. Then I always have wanted to make my own channel. So that's, yeah, 20 years almost of wanting to be on YouTube. And here we are. I finally did it. So that's something that makes me happy. But yeah, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. If you guys are looking for me anywhere else, I have an Instagram that I update inconsistently. I am on Goodreads if you want to connect about books. I obviously have Ravelry, and I try to be, I would say I'm pretty consistent on Ravelry. So all those things are linked in the description box down here. And yeah, I don't know. Leave me any other questions you have, and we'll talk really soon. Bye.